All right, class, one of the questions on your quiz will be about, or really getting you to compare graphs where you have separate single graphs or whether you combine them into a multiple line chart. So what you see here on your screen is information that shows, let's see, female percentage of students at private universities, female percentage of students at public universities. So let me just go ahead and show you. We could separately take the private university information, go to insert. You're not going to have to make these graphs on your own for this particular question on the quiz. You're just going to have to answer questions about the graphs that are going to already have been provided for you. But I'm just showing you from scratch how we would generate these in Excel and just talk to you about what's the preferred type of graph. So we could have just a single line chart showing the private female percentage. And of course, we could add in the axis title over here. I'm going to type in percent female. And then down here would be the year. And I could take this, right click, and I'm going to put in these years. All right, so we could have a single line graph for the private university information. Similarly, we could take the public university information, have the exact same thing. Insert line graph. I'm going to move that down here. Click this plus sign, put in an axis title of percent female. Come down here and put year again. Highlight the bottom axis and right click to where I go select data. Horizontal category axis labels, I'm going to click edit and click and drag down my years. Click OK. All right, and click OK again. So I could have these two separate graphs here. The problem with that is it's hard to make a comparison. I mean, we can certainly see that both private university percentage of female enrollment has increased and public university percentage of female enrollment has increased. But I mean, it's hard to make a direct comparison between what's going on with female percentage in the private universities and what's going on with female percentage of enrollment in the public universities. So here's what you would want to check. If you come over and check the vertical axis label, percent female, and you see that two separate graphs are in the same, what are called comparable units. Like you'll see that wording even in the question. So if you see that both of these are in comparable units, then I'm just kind of looking through the question. All right. So both of these are in comparable units. Now, if this was percentage and this was number of something, like number of students and percentage of students, then they would not be in comparable units. But if it's percent female, it's in the same comparable units, then it really makes more sense to combine the two separate graphs and put them together in a single line chart. So to do that, I would actually highlight over both of these, click Insert, Line Graph, click on it, and now you see I've got a combined graph. I'm going to click the plus sign and add in the axis labels. Still going to be percent female since they were in comparable values. Years are still going to go down here. I'm going to click on the horizontal axis and then right click, select data, edit, put in the years, and click OK and click OK. So what we want to realize is if the units are comparable and are the same for both separate graphs, then it's really better and more effective in terms of the comparison to be able to combine them into a single line chart that has both the private university and public university, because now we can actually see that while both types of universities had a steady increase in female percentage, the public universities, which is the orange line up top, actually has overall from 1990 to 2010, roughly a higher percentage of females than the private universities. And in fact, basically a steady difference here because it's about the same distance between the orange line and the blue line, regardless of what year we're looking at. So we couldn't tell that information when they were separate. We would much rather have them combined, but you just have to realize that the time to do that is if the units are in comparable units. So what we would say here is that if the sum of the female and males is not important, because remember, if the sum or total is important, we would rather do some sort of stacked chart. But if the sum is not important here, but a comparison is important, and this is organized along a quantitative variable because these are years down here. We don't see names of categories. But if the two quantitative categories are in the same unit, in this case it was percent of female, then it makes more sense to combine them into a single chart. And then, like I said, we should be able to make a conclusion. For instance, in this case, we could say that the public universities had a steadily higher percentage of females than the privates, even though both were steadily increasing. And so we would really call this one preferred over here on the right-hand side as like a multiple line chart rather than two separate single line charts. Okay, so you'll have to just look out for the wording there. But it does make sense to put them together into one single chart. But the single chart is called a multiple line chart. So I hope that's helpful for that particular question.